Thank you for joining us on this Sunday evening. I'm Daniel Chen with this hour's latest. Now, it's been 40 days since the Sewol-ho ferry sank, but bad weather conditions over the weekend have hampered efforts to find the remaining 16 people unaccounted for from the ship. In the meantime, police are intensifying their search for the de facto owner of the ferry, who seems to have accomplices helping him hide. Our Connie Lee starts us off.
Off of Korea's southwestern island of Jindo, efforts to find the bodies of those still missing from the sunken Sewol-ho ferry have been halted for now and could be stalled until Monday. Bad weather conditions, including fast tidal currents and foggy conditions, have prevented divers from searching for the last 16 bodies still underwater. No bodies have been recovered since Wednesday, and the death toll stands at 288. Divers have been focusing their search efforts on the third and fourth decks of the ship, but are struggling because parts of the ship are now falling apart. Meanwhile, in the investigation to the ferry disaster, prosecutors say they have arrested one person who is suspected of helping Yu Byung-un, or the ferry's de facto owner, flee from the authorities. Prosecutors say the person is a devotee of the religious cult led by Yu. The arrest comes after investigators confiscated footage from surveillance cameras on the religious compound of the cult's headquarters. Yu and his eldest son, Yoo Dae-gyun, have been on the run since failing to show up for questioning by prosecutors. Authorities say, however, that they have been receiving tips on their whereabouts since they were put on the nation's most wanted list over the last 2 weeks. Officials have offered cash rewards of up to $50,000 for anyone with any information on the Yus. Connie Lee, Arirang News.
The Sewol-ho tragedy that took so many young lives has affected the entire country. The ones hit hardest financially are the many small and mid-sized businesses in and near the site of the sinking. More than 11,000 tours have been canceled since the disaster, denting the incomes of tour operators and businesses dependent on the tours. Government officials processing state aid requests say they have allocated 11.7 billion won, or around $11.41 million in new loans to areas close to the sinking in the period between May 12th, when the aid program began, and May 19th. But the latest government data shows that delivery of the aid has been slow, primarily because many small businesses can't meet strict qualification requirements. Area businesses now say they hope the government will establish a special rescue fund. The number of household loans by Korean banks compared to other kinds of bank loans has dropped to a 13-year low. The Bank of Korea says that by the end of 2013, household loans represented 41.7% of the roughly $472 billion in total bank loans. Now, that's the lowest percentage since the year 2000, when the figure was 35.1%. Last year, it was a different story, with a growing number of people borrowing heavily to finance high mortgages. The central bank says one contributing factor is the strict criteria banks place on borrowers. That's caused more households to turn to non-monetary institutions, where interest rates are higher than at banks, but the loan application process is simpler and faster. The government is moving to tackle the growing problem of child abuse here in Korea. The Justice Ministry aims to propose a law that would fine people around $4,800 for failing to report child abuse. The ministry hopes the law will better protect children from continued abuse and ensure abusers are punished. 22 children died in Korea as a result of child abuse last year. That's the highest number recorded since the National Child Protection Agency began compiling the data in 2001. Between then and 2012, a total of 97 children, or an average of 8 per year, have lost their lives as a result of domestic violence. 8 of the victims were newborns and 5 were under the age of 2. Moving on to other parts of our world, over in Ukraine, 3 months after the country's ousted President Viktor Yanukovych fled the country, voters are heading to the polls to choose their next president. Hopes are high for a new leader who promises closer ties with the West. Our Yudian reports.
Ukrainians are heading to the polls on this Sunday to elect a new leader who can put an end to the months of unrest that began when protests forced a pro-Russian regime out of power back in February. Tensions remain high in the east, with pro-Russian separatists threatening to block voting. The area is home to 1/7 of the country's 36 million voters.
Even if there is some interference at certain polling stations, or even if one electorate with several hundred polling stations cannot operate properly, that won't stop the Central Election Commission from determining the final result and announcing the newly elected president.
Businessman Petro Poroshenko, who was a strong backer of protests against former President Viktor Yanukovych last winter, is emerging as the front-runner, far ahead of the 20 other candidates. Ukrainians are hopeful the new president will restore order to the embattled country.
The new president should at least be able to end the current domestic conflicts. If the new president can stop Ukraine's domestic conflicts, it will be the greatest achievement within the presidency. I hope everything goes fine after the presidential election. I hope people can live peacefully and be more confident in the future.
Russian President Vladimir Putin vowed to respect the election results and said he is ready to work with the new leader during a speech in an economic forum on Saturday. Observers say Putin's conciliatory gesture was made to contain the damage to the Russian economy from Western sanctions. Yurian, Arirang News.
Pop-up protests spread across Thailand over the weekend amid growing dissent against the army's takeover. Troops in Thailand continued seizing leaders of the pro-government Red Shirts, who are supporters of former Prime Minister Thaksin Shinawatra. 22 members of the group have been arrested and hundreds of bombs, pieces of ammunition and cars seized, according to local media. Former Prime Minister Yingluck Shinawatra, as well as about 100 political figures, are still in detention by the military. And in the U.S. state of California, authorities have now identified the gunman who killed 6 people and injured 13 before turning the gun on himself in a Southern California college town. Police say 22-year-old Elliot Roger went on a killing spree Friday night in Isla Vista, near the campus of the University of California, Santa Barbara. Authorities say he fatally stabbed 3 of his roommates before going on a shooting rampage, killing 2 women and a man. The chaos ended when Roger fatally shot himself inside his car after an exchange of gunfire with police. Police have confirmed that Roger, who they described as severely mentally disturbed, released a YouTube video a day earlier explaining his loneliness and intentions to kill in order to take revenge on people he said rejected him. Let's shift gears to a different story now. Getting a flat tire can be a real drag, and in worst-case scenarios can lead to injuries or even death. But if local researchers have their way, flat tires may soon become a thing of the past. Our Son Jung-in has more.
A group of researchers placed several ping-pong balls onto a platform carrier to measure the vibration caused by wheels. They installed average tires onto one platform and so-called smart tires onto the other one. When running on the road, the balls on average tires bounce continuously due to the vibration. However, the ping-pong balls on smart tires stay relatively still and the tires run without making much noise. Researchers say the secret lies in a structure inside the wheels that disperse the weight of air added to the tires. Using a cushion effect, they have solved the problem of both vibration and noise.
The air pressure applied on the tires is dispersed inside, causing a cushion effect.
The smart tires do not require it to be made of rubber, which means less of a chance of getting a flat tire. Among new tires introduced by multinational companies, these locally developed smart tires are well received.
I believe the technology to disperse the pressure is superior than the so-called hive structure developed in other countries.
Experts believe the smart tire, which is currently being introduced on carts and beds, is sure to lead the global tire industry once it is further developed. Son Jung-in, Arirang News.
In sports, in Lisbon, the team with the world's most expensive player and arguably its best finally got a return on its investment. Real Madrid won its 10th UEFA Champions League title at the expense of its neighbor Atletico Madrid with a come-from-behind 4-1 victory. Right before the final whistle, it seemed like the trophy had Atletico written all over it, with the team clinging on to a 1-0 lead courtesy of a header by Diego Godin in the 36th minute. But a goal by Real Madrid's Sergio Ramos in the 48th minute of the second half sent the game into overtime. And then Gareth Bale, Marcelo and Cristiano Ronaldo took turns scorching Atletico's net. The win means that after a long dry spell since they last won the title in 2002, Real Madrid has finally silenced its skeptics to achieve the mystical La Decima, or 10 Champions League titles. On weather, it's a damp and gloomy Sunday here in Korea, and these conditions are expected to continue through Monday. Over in Jindo, close to where the Sewol-ho ferry sank last month, the current is expected to be stronger at around 1.9 meters per second. And now let's take a look at the weather conditions elsewhere around the world. And that's a wrap for us. For more, tune in at 10 p.m. Korea time. Thank you for watching.